So a guy that I've known of and listened to off and on for years and years, and always have heard great things about, but I've never really sat down and talked to until recently, is Dennis Prager. We had him on the show, and just so impressed by this guy's intellect, and I didn't need to meet him for that, but really a wise man. Taught the Torah in Hebrew for years at the American Jewish University in Los Angeles. He's also the founder of Prager University, best-selling, New York Times best-selling author, columnist, nationally syndicated talk show host, and a friend. Dennis Prager is with us, and he told me when he was here, he said, "You were going to love my book, The Ten Commandments." And Dennis, I'm ashamed to say I haven't even had a chance to read it yet. And so I apologize, but take me through it, because it's not a very long book. It's 90 pages.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the lovely introduction, and I love the fact that you added friend, because that is accurate.
Well, you and I are, Dennis, you and I have been on the same road, and there's a few of us that are on the same kind of path, and we all better stick together, or we'll certainly hang separately.
Or hang separately.
Yeah, that's right.
We may we even may hang together at the rate things are going.
Yes, we might. So tell me why this book is groundbreaking and earth-shattering, if you will.
Wow. Well, it is groundbreaking. I don't know if it's earth-shattering. It might be. That's for each reader to decide. But I'll tell you, the Ten Commandments and the Bible generally are in terrible disrepute. The greatest book ever written by far. Nothing comes close. You talked about wisdom. We live in the age of anti-wisdom. We live in the age of specialized knowledge with no wisdom. That's why experts are so overwhelmingly wrong on most issues, because they have knowledge with no wisdom. And how could they have wisdom? After all, this is the generation that inherited don't trust anyone over 30, and the Ten Commandments are 3,200 years old. So it seems that in this age, it's the last thing people would want to take seriously. But I believe there is so much brilliance in these Ten Commandments. And when you think about it, I make the case that each one is brilliant. I try to show its utter relevance to the time in which we live. And I'll give you one little example. The commandment is honor your father and mother. It seems, pretty obvious. But I'll tell you what isn't obvious. There is a commandment to love the stranger. There's a commandment to love your neighbor. There's a commandment to love God. But there is no commandment to love your father and mother. Whether you love your father and mother is really between you and your father and mother, or between you and yourself, for that matter. Maybe you just don't want to let them know that you don't particularly love them. But it's irrelevant to the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments doesn't really care if you love your parents. It cares if you honor them. And it's the only person in the world that we are commanded to honor, and that is father and mother. So that alone is a terrific insight of
why does that make a Why does that make a difference, Dennis?
Because a lot of people have ambivalence, emotion. It's a very tough parent-child relations. They're often smooth and they're often rough. But what matters is parenthood. Honor parenthood. That's what it is about. Because a free society is not possible without parental authority. Because if there's no parental authority, there's going to be state authority. That's your choice. That's what's happening in the United States. It's what's happening in Europe, and it's what happens in every totalitarian regime. The first thing they do is break the connection, the authority of parent to child. Obey the party, obey the state, and the parents become irrelevant. So here you don't honor the state, you don't honor the king, you honor your father and your mother. And that's big. That's very big, because remember, and again, there's another insight I bring in the book. It begins with God taking the Jews out of Egypt and bringing them to freedom. So what is being said is, hey, you want freedom? You have to live by these 10 commandments. If you want to maintain freedom, here is how to do it. And that is correct. If people feel obligated to God not to steal, not to murder, not to commit adultery, not to lie, not to covet, to honor their parents, not to make false gods, not to do evil in God's name, which is what Commandment 3 is about. I'll explain that later. Then you will have a free society. You let the 10 Commandments go, you will drop freedom. You either have a big God in the individual's lives or a big state in everybody's lives. And that's what Europe is. Europe is big state, little God. And America is moving in that direction as well. One more little simple insight that most people are not aware of. It doesn't say do not kill. The Hebrew says do not murder. There's an enormous difference between killing and murder. We're permitted to kill because there is moral killing and there's immoral killing. Immoral killing is murder. And that's what is prohibited in the 10 Commandments.
Dennis, you also make the point, and it's a point that Glenn's kind of made several times, that the 10 Commandments aren't just for the religious community. Really, 7 of the 10 are just really good safety tips, right? They're things on which I think all reasonable human beings can agree on, including atheists. Atheists might not accept the God commandments, but the other 7 are pretty basic.
Yeah, the first 4. The first 4, is it 5? No, it's the first 4 are our relationship with God, how we are supposed to have a relationship with God. The remaining 6 are our relationship with each other.
Yes, but I actually would add one of the first 4 is actually very much with regard to humans as much as it is to God, not to have false gods. I explain there because people think that's the least relevant commandment. After all, who is worshiping stones, rocks, idols, statues?
We're worshiping our jobs. We're worshiping our houses. We're worshiping our cars.
Well, actually, it's worse than that, if I may say, because they're not false gods. Everybody knows not to worship money. But how many people today know not to worship the earth? See, we have real false gods today, because a false god, remember, is not simply something that people worship, but they know they shouldn't. Everybody knows they shouldn't worship money, but people don't. Therefore, it's not a false god. It's just a flaw that people might have in their character. But a false god is one you really do worship because you think it is godlike. And that's why I include, as an example, the worship of nature. The whole point of the first chapter in Genesis is that God created nature. Nature is subservient to God. Nature is created for the human being. Today it is the opposite. Where I live in Southern California, the reason we have no water is not because of drought. It is because of the worship of nature. And for example, the incredible amount of water that is taken from humans in order to save some 6-inch fish. This is the worship of nature. It is the worship of nature when you tell Africans who want to have some affluence in their lives as opposed to poverty, you can't use fossil fuel. We got rich using fossil fuel, but you can only use solar panels and windmills. So therefore, they consign much of the third world to permanent poverty because they worship nature.
Well, the left, though, Dennis, will say, well, we'll use the Bible and we'll say you have to be good stewards of the earth. How can you possibly respect that with the way you're acting with fossil fuels?
Yeah, that's what they say. That's exactly right. But if it weren't for fossil fuels, you and I would not be talking now because we would have to be sending letters to each other taken by a horse. Every hospital exists thanks to fossil fuel. Every mode of communication. I mean, it is an unbelievable idiocy to have this notion that fossil fuels is some curse. They have made civilization as we know it possible. And the end of fossil fuels is the end of affluence as we know it. We don't have a viable substitute. Let's be honest. Everybody would be thrilled. You could put up a solar panel and you power everything. That's fine. But it's right now, that's a dream. Right now, there is fossil fuel, and it is cleaner and cleaner.
Dennis, I'll tell you that I think that we have, and not knowingly, I think we have gone back and we are worshiping Moloch and Baal. We just don't know it, but we're doing the same thing. That was the god of money, of power, and the environment. And
well, yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Yes. Okay, well, whatever name you wish to ascribe to it, that's one's choice. But I want to be literal to the commandment. Don't have false gods. I am the only God. Don't get veered away. When I see people kissing the Oscar and the way they live, after all, what is a God? Something you live for. And to live for fame. Fame is a false god. People, what does it mean? You live your life in order to have it. I talk to kids. What do you want to be when you grow up? Famous. So then my next question is, what do you want to be famous for? Answer, it doesn't matter. If it's Kim Kardashian and famous for being famous, that's great. That's what matters. If it's because I will take a motorcycle over the Grand Canyon, that's great. But I want to be famous. So,
well, I want you to know that Pat just brought up a very good point on.
She also has a big butt.
Yeah,
so
Kim Kardashian.
There is that.
There's more
it's
than
not
just
because
fame.
she's famous. She's also famous for a really large
butt. So,
but she's famous. That's what matters.
Yes, she is famous. She is. Yes. Dennis Prager. The name of the book is The 10 Commandments, and I've been saying for a long time that if we could just get the top 10 down, we just do these 10 things, we would change the world. And Dennis, I thank you so much for writing and being a part of the program, and thank you for being a friend. And it's good to know we have.
My pleasure.
It's good to know that we have somebody with your intellectual horsepower on our side. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
God bless you, Dennis Prager.
God bless you.